Right, morning guys. So I'm back in the workshop I've got about 3 days to work on the Land Rover. And this is really the last visit before I move to Germany entirely. So I'm not rushing, but I'm just going to see how much I can get done in terms of getting as much on the car as possible. So for example, I want to get the seat base done. Not that I can fit that once it's finished, but it's quite a lot of work. And if I get the seat base done, then that's one unit that's finished that I can just bolt on at a later date once I get the bulkhead back, which is being galvanized, repaired and sprayed for me. So that's all something I could have probably done myself, but with the time frame that I've got, the limited time I've got somebody else doing that. They're very well known for doing it. And yeah, so that's being done. So I want to get the seat base done, which I'm just setting up myself today to do that, and hopefully get the front section, the grille panel done. So I've red oxide that, painted it with red oxide, and I've actually hand painted it with marine blue on the back, but I'll actually rub that down and respray it just so it's got a nice smooth clean finish. So I might do that today or tomorrow, but actually what I want to do, as I said, is get the seat base done so I can strip that back and clean it and paint it. So if I get that done first, then I can rub this front section down and paint those all together. So I'm just going to warm up the workshop a little bit. I've got the heater on. And I might need to create myself a little bit of a spray booth somewhere with some plastic sheeting, but that's the idea for today. So I'm just setting up myself with a workbench, which is, means I don't have to bend down the whole day long. So I've put two beer crates underneath there and found a bit of plywood, and hopefully that will be high enough and stable enough for me to work on. It's probably about, I don't know, about 1.2 meters high, which should just work. And that is the seat box that I'm going to use, which I have partly dismantled, which was the better of the two. The original one that I had, or have, is over there on the back of the chassis, and it's got a bit more corrosion in the back. Let's just try and get this up here. Yeah, so I think that's going to work out quite well. I've got all the repair parts here for it. I got that from Bits for Landys. They fabricate them themselves, pretty high quality from what I can see. And I've got the two end sections, and I've got the aluminium. I went for an aluminium battery and tool tray. And I've got the rivets, I've got the rivet gun. And yeah, so once I get those fitted, I will take off all these parts here. I've got new gaiters for the handbrake and the gear stick and all those things, so I'll take those off and spray those separately. I'm not gonna rub it right down to bare metal. It's going to take far too long, so I'm just gonna roughen up the surface as it is, and still put etch primer in there, and then give it a top coat. But this seat base, which I got for 99 pence from eBay, along with a whole bunch of other stuff, is a lot better than the one I have back here. As you can see here, although it's already the marine blue, which is quite useful, it's got quite a lot of corrosion back here, and buying those parts when I've got them just for the sake of using the original seat box is, I think, nonsense. So I'm gonna use this one. So I've got one of the seat rails which is not coming off. It's just due to a rusted bolt here. So I'm just going to angle grind that off, and then I'm going to clean all this up on the underside. I'm going to leave it all as it is on the underside actually, but just sort of clean it up a little bit. But first of all, that seat rail has got to come off, and I'm going to use the angle grinder to get it off. Okay, that's off, and now I'm just going to go and clean up all of the corrosion, which you can see here. I'll use the wire brush on the angle grinder for that, but just taking it very easy because the aluminium is pretty soft. So, but yeah, got that final bit off, and that just basically just connected that to there. And I've got a whole set of new bolts and so on for the whole seat base, so they'll all be new stainless steel. So I'm just taking off all the small parts that I can get off without drilling out the rivets. So, for example, these things I'll just tape up and then clean them after I've spray painted. I don't think it's worth taking those off. That little one I'm going to leave on, purely because I'll probably end up, I think this is brass, I'm not sure, but I'll end up ruining that if I try and take that off, because the nut at the back is pretty rusted on. So I'm just going to leave that, and then yeah, I'm going to take it outside and use the wire wheel very carefully on the angle grinder just to clean all of that corrosion up. You can see it all along here. It's all quite a thick layer of corrosion, which and there's seam sealant and things like that. So I'm just going to clean all that off. So I've undercoated the seat box with an etch primer, and I'm just measuring up here before I actually rivet these sections. It's not that easy, you've got to be a little bit careful, and luckily I've got all the old bits here from the previous seat box, so I can measure from them. And I've already noticed here on the new section, for example, I need to cut that back slightly because it doesn't sit. If I line that up there, then there's a big gap between there, and I actually need to rivet that flush with that, so I need to cut that back a little bit there. And actually measuring this one with the old one I've got, which is over there, this one is just wider, so I'm going to trim that back. Okay, so I've finished riveting together the seat box. It's pretty good fun actually. There's a bit of faffing around to line it all up beforehand because I did both ends and the tool case, or the tool compartment, I think it's called. So yeah, it worked out pretty well in the end. I hope it fits onto the car when it's ready. But I used this. This is, you know, just a pretty standard rivet gun, really. What I tend to do is you have to get them flat, because a couple of them I didn't get very flat. You can see there. So you've really got to make sure when you put it on the metal that you work it up. You sort of pump it up a little bit. You pump it up a little bit like that until you feel it bite, and you can bang it off. And yeah, if you get them flat on, they look a lot better than not getting them flat on. But there's only a couple I did like that, but otherwise we are... Oh, it's not focusing, hang on. We're pretty much there. Okay, so I've been doing some spray painting this morning. I put on the etch primer yesterday, and I'm using the compressor today with some marine blue paint. So yeah, you can already see, I'm doing it outside, but you can already see bugs getting attached to it. So first of all, I put the paint in neat, and it was just spattering out the end of the compressor nozzle, so I ended up putting some thinners in a little bit, not much, just a dash, and that really did improve it. But yeah, it seems even when it was spattering out, it was settling pretty well. So even these door tops, which I got for £5 for both of them, I gave them a good old clean up. They're not very old, but the guy I bought them from said they're about 2 years old, but he was using them in all weathers, as you would, and they rusted internally pretty quickly, but I managed to clean them up quite well. The bottom seals are still pretty much intact, so clean those up and they'll do for a little while. I want to get some military ones at some point, but that is pretty good value for £5. There is my repaired seat box, which is actually looking pretty good, I think. And then I just went over this front grille section because I'd painted it before but didn't really like the finish, so I've sprayed that up. And there's the other window. So yeah, that's today's progress so far. Okay, so it's been a very busy day today, if not the last 2 or 3 days. That is the seat base, which I sprayed yesterday and put together yesterday. And now it's finished, and I'm really pleased with that, because that's been, you know, some of these jobs that you have in your mind that you haven't done yet, you think, oh god, that's going to be really difficult and I'll do it another time. But yeah, so the seat base, which is a really integral part to the car, and they can be very expensive if you get a really good condition one. I repaired mine myself with new side panels, a new tool tray, and I cleaned up and repainted all of the seat rails. I got a set of new bolts, stainless steel bolts, but strangely enough the package, which is pretty typical really, the package was missing a whole bunch of the stainless steel washers, so I just ended up cleaning up some of the old ones and reusing those. Yeah, a new gaiter for the handbrake. What else? Yeah, so that's finished, and I'm really pleased with that. Otherwise, I did the steering column today. I reconditioned the steering box. The only thing I haven't done yet is put the fluid in, but everything's painted, new gaskets, new bearings, new seals. Very pleased with that. And the big thing is the Land Rover is actually starting to look like a Land Rover. I got the front panel on, which I spray painted yesterday, and actually, I don't know if you can see the finish. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. Basically, I painted it first with red oxide, and then I sprayed over it. So that's really cool. I've got that in. I've connected up the radiator. It's a new radiator. I think it's a Britpart radiator. That's all connected up. I also finally got a fan cowl, which mine was always missing, and it took me ages to find one. I ended up finding that one at Dunsfold. So yeah, it's coming together. But today's my last day, and I'm going back to Germany tomorrow, so I was just trying to get as much as I could done before I go. Because I think the next thing is to package it all up and take it all over to Germany. Oh, and also I got the brake and the clutch assembly done. So that's all done. Again, the guy who I bought these from, the aluminium stainless steel, the stainless steel bolt set, is missing a whole bunch of it's missing one of those, and it's missing how many was it? About 4 or 5 of the washers. But there we go, it's just the way it is, I suppose. And yeah, the workshop's looking pretty busy, but really pleased how things have turned out this weekend.